host for the evening. Thank you. Welcome everyone to the first ever Schmumps VGOST, Video Game Original Soundtrack Tournament. How the VGOST works, one Schmump plays the host while the others will submit two candidates for what they believe to be one of the greatest video game soundtracks ever created. Everyone will get a chance to explain their reasoning at the start, and then we'll all dive into the voting. With that said, let's start the show. Up first.
I really like that you added this to the beginning.
Thank you. All right, so up first we got Kinsey with Amori. Kinsey, tell us about the Amori OST. What makes it so special?
I really like it because I don't know. I'm a sucker for like kind of indie-esque like music. I know a lot of these are, but I don't know. I feel like as you get further in the game, it gets a bit more diverse. It's fun. It's quirky. It scratches my brain the right way, you know. I just like it. I wish I could say more about like the actual like instruments themselves, but lots of piano and violin, and that just makes me happy as a former violinist.
Go strings.
Fair enough, yeah. Okay, thank you very much. All right, moving on. Next up. Okami, who Rachel put in. Rachel, tell us what makes Okami above and beyond the OST, that is.
Okami is a very the game itself uses a very painterly traditional Japanese style art style, which is just absolutely beautiful to look at, and then it's accompanied by traditional Japanese style music, which just blends in with the environment so beautifully. And there are these very beautiful tranquil tracks that you could just listen to for hours and just relax to. But then there's also when the fights get intense, the music is just there to match it, and it really it's just such a great overall experience. I think that the music adds to it. I feel like this is a very generic sounding thing, but it's true. This is definitely one of the most the best experiences I've had in a video game with the music and it complementing the visual style.
Fair enough. All right, next up. All right, that was Pizza Tower. Austin, tell us about Pizza Tower's OST.
Pizza Tower is a really fast-paced game, so it only makes sense that it comes with an incredibly fast-paced, action-packed soundtrack, right? And this soundtrack does everything in its power to pull out basically every sample you can find, like FL Studio, right, or some kind of. It's all sound effects and samples from songs that you've heard before, but they're used in really unique and fun ways. And I think it's got some of the best sampling, especially in those final boss themes, Unexpectancy, the best samples I've ever heard in a video game soundtrack. On top of that, it can be groovy. It can be super, what's the word? Blast processed. I remember, forget what the Sega Genesis called it, but that style of 8-bit crunch is really prevalent in this soundtrack, and it makes it really aesthetically pleasing to listen to. That even though the music itself is very fast, it doesn't feel overwhelming, which I really, really enjoy.
Very nice, very nice. On to the final of the left side. Celeste, which was introduced by Brett. Brett, tell us what makes Celeste so cool.
So this soundtrack does become overwhelming at some points. A lot of it is very atmospheric. It's super synth heavy, of course. A lot of it is actually inspired by the soundtrack for the movie Blade Runner from the 80s. So you get these. There's a lot of atmosphere in it where we're not talking about the game, but there are these lulls or these kind of atmospheric parts of the song. Then it will slam into you with all these super compressed, loud synthesizer sounds, just layers on layers on layers, and it's fantastic. It gives you the feeling of anxiety and being overwhelmed that is trying to be conveyed in the game, but I think you can get that without even playing the game, the emotions it's trying to give you. It also sounds cold. I love it.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, moving on to number 5. Ultra Kill. Sweet. Austin, bring it back around for your second pick.
I've talked about this game more than enough with you guys to show just how much. And for context, this is all taking place after we recorded every Shmump Ultra Kill video. My God, this game is so fantastic in every single way. Mainly in the way that it tells story, right? Its storytelling capabilities are far above any other game that I've played in recent memory. Maybe minus Undertale, in terms of like being this incredibly subversive take on a video game. I think that the soundtrack does a fantastic job of also representing that. It goes from this like breakcore, and I'm gonna be honest, some of those songs that you find on there, you're gonna find on a playlist called like breakcore songs that I want to get my ass eaten to, right? It's gonna be the most ridiculous like ridiculous fast-paced stuff that you could possibly imagine, and it's fun. It's pure carnage and violence that comes with that aim and break sample. And as the game goes on and evolves, the songs evolve. They tell this larger story. You can hear it in songs like Order. That there's this sort of sound of sadness and deep remorse inside it. It's reflecting in the game while also maintaining that incredibly fast-paced, action-packed motif that the entire soundtrack is going for. And then finally, once you get to the more well-produced songs like Tenebrae Rose de Sanguine, that like church-sounding one, it's just gorgeous. It's beautiful, and it perfectly encapsulates how fucked up the world of Ultra Kill is. And for that, I think it's probably the best video game soundtrack in the world, and I'm not biased. Believe it or not, I'm not biased when I say that at all.
Yeah, I believe that. That was very well said. Thank you so much for both your great OSTs you brought in. All right, and speaking of great OSTs, I just want to point out real fast before we move on, really appreciate how everyone went ahead and selected these OSTs that might be from, slightly lesser known titles out there, bringing great music that not everyone already knows about, of course. I really respect how they chose to do that instead of just hitting the obvious heavy hitters. So moving on to the next one. Oh my goodness, wow, is that Mario Galaxy? Rachel, did you put in Mario Galaxy? Well, tell us, for anyone who hasn't heard, why is Mario Galaxy's OST so great?
So yeah, Mario Galaxy is from this little known indie company. Okay, so I know I've been clowned on, and I'm gonna be clowned on in the comments for picking this, but truth be told, this game does really have like a soft spot in or honestly, the OST does too. But yeah, I just have a huge love of space and everything space related, and I think that this OST just captures like the beauty and excitement of exploring space. Like, yes, there are times when it's like, oh, you need to have the like scary, terrifying, oh my god, eldritch horror. But like realistically, if you got the chance to explore space and you would want this bombastic, just thrilling soundtrack that this game provides. And yeah, it's well known that this game has a killer soundtrack, and it's well known for a reason. That's what I got to say about it. I'm sticking by my choice to do this.
I respect it. I respect that. Okay, moving on to...
Is this fan art?
Blanche did that himself.
Maybe.
Blanche.
Well, whoever did it, that's Undertale, introduced by Brett. Brett, tell us about Undertale's soundtrack.
I firstly want to thank you as a host for not using the song that will not be named, because everybody already knows it, so there's no point in talking about it. And also, the rest of the soundtrack is just so strong, I don't think it even needs that song that we're not going to talk about anymore. Of course, this is a very retro-inspired game. It's getting a little bit old itself now, 10 years now. It's pretty crazy. But of course, retro-inspired at the time, super inspired by Earthbound and just super SNES stuff in general. It was actually made using sound fonts from various different old SNES games, and sound fonts which are inspired by those sounds. A sound font just being a collection of instrument sounds from like a video game. So like using like the horn from Mario RPG or something like that. But yeah, it is super strong in terms of all of its melody. Like almost every one of these songs could get stuck in your head at a different point. It's wonderful. It's all chiptune-y. And apart from like the super bombastic like boss battles, which just go so hard, my favorite parts are just like the kind of more sentimental moments that tie in really well with the story. Of course, we're not talking about the gameplay, but it is a very sentimental game with a very sentimental soundtrack, and that's shown in a lot of the motifs that are used for different characters. You'll hear it carry over into different songs, being like, oh, remember this? Remember Papyrus? This is his little ditty. You'll hear bits and pieces spread throughout. It's very cohesive. It almost reminds me of like a musical in some ways like that, where you'll have bits appear throughout the soundtrack. That's like, oh, I heard that in the other song. It's just really well thought out and really well done.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for telling us. All right, last but certainly not least. Sun and Moon. Kinsey, finish it. Bring it home.
You're cut off the main thing. Okay, so just Pokemon. When I first like heard like the music in the game, I felt like I was playing a totally like brand new Pokemon game for the very first time. I mean, obviously it was new, but like it felt like playing Pokemon for the first time, and it was just so distinct, so different, so fun, upbeat, and there's a lot of kind of like different what was it? Just sounds you wouldn't expect. It does in some area take on almost like a spacey sound, which I really enjoyed. Again, just kind of scratches my brain the right way. It's just I like the ambiance.
Beautiful. Thank you for finishing it. Awesome. Okay, and we're gonna start voting in just a few minutes. Okay, so going into Omori versus Okami.
Sorry, before we begin, do you want us to like celebrate when we announce the winner, or is that
Sure, you can
okay?
be hyped. Whatever sounds you make and whatnot. Go ahead.
Cool.
I'm gonna
Uh,
cheer for every single one.
I'm gonna say
Amen.
got it.
yeehaw after everyone.
That's very nice. Okay, so starting in any order of any importance, Austin, explain your opinions on the songs and why you voted for who you did.
So that's a great both soundtracks, the O's as you would call them, the O's and the I's that they end in. I really, really enjoyed both soundtracks for what they were. Amori is beautiful. Amori is absolutely serene. It tells a story in its soundtrack, and I found it personally fascinating. Um, and honestly, playing the game before made it a little bit hard to ignore exactly what I experienced in the game. That was kind of a difficult thing to bridge, but when you do, you can still respect the soundtrack for what it brings to the table. It's really beautiful, it's really good, and there are some moments that are truly, truly, truly emotional, which I really enjoy. Okami, on the other hand, is a fantastic representation of a period of time from a culture that I am not too well versed in. So it was a great experience into mythology, into Japanese culture and into ancient Japanese culture. And it really made me appreciate just how much thought and musical talent went into creating that soundtrack. Both of them are incredible, but my personal vote is Okami.
Okami takes the first vote. It is 1-0. My goodness.
Yeehaw.
All right, with that yeehaw.
Sorry, is that after every vote or every
Yeehaw.
decision?
You
Okay,
can-
sorry.
However often you want to, man. Brett, hop in with that yeehaw. Tell us your opinions
Aye.
and your votes.
Thank you. I love the soundtracks of both the Oblinky games. They are very specific vibes, most definitely, like Irving was talking about. Like we all know, it's super heavy on that traditional, like, Japanese instrumentation and the kind of vibes that I'm a little more, I guess, knowledgeable of, like, Japanese culture and kind of music traditions, if you count, like, I don't know, fusion from like the 70s, but that doesn't really apply here. But this does like that kind of, for like lack of anything, like Naruto hype action music, better than a lot of other games that I've heard do try the same thing, and it's super hype for that. Omori has this very specific vibe in that it's it's got that quirked up retro thing going for it for pretty much the whole way through. It's a little more like lo-fi even, but it has so many like catchy melodies and so much heart in it that I think it like takes the edge for me between these two. And this was my decision before even starting to play Omori, which I've since started since we've
Great game.
done this OST. Great game. But regardless of the game, I think the soundtrack edges out Okami for me.
Omori takes it, which leaves the score 1-1.
Yeah.
Woo! Okay.
Tiebreaker time.
Tiebreaker time. My goodness. It's always exciting as a host to get into a tiebreaker, so let me talk about my own opinions. We're going to start with Okami. I'm going to say Okami, for me, I'm a little torn on whether I think the Okami soundtrack's effort to stick to stick super closely to the Japanese sound aesthetic. Maybe it either partially holds it back from being more creative, or it just gives it an auditory identity, one or the other, and I can respect it either way because it's still super creative, whichever I more lean towards in the moment. Whatever it is, it's really good. It's really pleasant to the ear, and being someone who's relatively familiar with other tracks and OSTs that feature heavy Japanese aesthetic sounds, it does it really well. It also has clear Zelda vibes in all the best ways. Even without playing the game, you could probably hear in the music that it's like if you took a Zelda vibe for its music and then gave it more of that Japanese sound, you're hearing a lot of what Okami's nature comes from, from my opinion. And as someone who loves Zelda music, I can only say that's a good thing. And then for Omori has this amazing soundtrack that is wonderfully diverse. The way each song makes you feel completely different, it's amazingly impressive to me. The different sound fonts are also pretty masterfully done. There are 179 songs in the official soundtrack, and that doesn't even include the dozens that don't even get used in the game, some of which are literally just finished songs, but there were just too many to even spread them out loud. And they're almost all bangers, which is amazing. That's pretty rare that you get such a long, filled out soundtrack and you don't have that many songs that you can point at and go, yeah, that one's not that good. So if I had to say my personal pick out of the two, which one spoke to me more based off what it was doing, I'm going to give my vote to Omori, which leaves this at a 2-1 victory for Omori. Omori moves on to the second round.
Whoa.
Oh
Yeah.
no. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Wait, can I hold on? Wait, where's the soundboard? Oh my god.
Oh, yeehaw.
I thought you were gonna go.
Feels good to be a winner.
There you go. That's the first of the first rounds. All right, moving on. Pizza Tower versus Celeste. All right, random order. Let's just go with how it was for the top left. Kinsey, give us your thoughts on the
Okay.
soundtracks and tell us your vote.
So I really liked both of these. I guess just going top down. Pizza Tower was really fun. I really loved like all the music. I wish I knew more about music so I could like go into like, just like all the intricacies and like what comes up like when, or if like there's motifs throughout the entire thing and all that stuff. But it kind of and maybe this is just me. It probably is just me. It's sort of like blurred together just a little bit. Sorry, my cat is knocking down my hamper. I don't know. I really loved Pizza Tower. It was super fun. Like I definitely could see like the gameplay like behind it and just like what it would go with, and like super wacky, super fun. But like Celeste was almost kind of like haunting like while I was listening to it. It definitely felt like I knew the landscape, and so it almost felt like getting taken into like like when you're reading a book and you go into like that, you stop seeing the words and you're kind of there. It kind of felt like that, but like with music. And so that's why I ended up choosing like Celeste in the end, because like I don't know, it felt like immersive. It just sort of like grew on me as I continued listening to the songs, and I was like, oh, I know where I am right now.
Yeah,
So,
of course.
that's why I chose that one.
Yeehaw.
Very
Yeehaw.
nice.
Oh, I
So
just wanted to
Celeste
note-
takes the first vote.
Blanchard, I forgot to say this earlier, but I really liked your comparison of the Okami soundtrack to Zelda. That's something I didn't even think about, but it makes a lot of sense. I like
Oh
that
yeah,
a lot.
there's a clear like musical inspiration there, which isn't even that
Yeah,
surprising once you also
Mhm.
realize the game is a clear
yeah.
gameplay inspiration as well. But no, I loved it. Rachel, the follow up, tell us what you thought.
Yeah, I have to agree with a lot of the points that Kenzie hit on. I'm also going to start in the same order that she did. So, Pizza Tower, absolutely just chaotic, so much like fun sounding. And I have to preface, I haven't played either of these two games, so I've only seen gameplay, and absolutely just so much fun. Like I can see why this soundtrack was picked because it's just intense. I loved the samples that they used. I think there was one of the boss music things that he showed us separately. And yeah, that was definitely my favorite out of all of them. It just has like a lot of depth and it seems chaotic and yet it all comes together into like a cohesive piece that just is super fun to listen to. But this is just an amateur's opinion. Then moving into Celeste, absolutely gorgeous soundtrack, long as hell, but absolutely
Yeah.
gorgeous.
Yeah, those songs are
Um,
long.
Yeah.
like Kenzie said, they really do kind of paint a picture of what's happening. Again, I haven't played the game, I've only seen things, and yeah, I just could imagine myself in the game listening to this. However, I will say, as much as I love Celeste, don't get me wrong, I did end up giving my vote to Pizza Tower.
Oh my god,
And
tiebreaker!
you can
Oh
Yeehaw.
check
my goodness,
the
doing this
history.
again? Okay, well
Oh my
that's exciting as a
god!
host. I mean, I would tell my thoughts anyway, but it means more when I have to actually decide something. Thank you for your opinion, Rachel. Beautiful, well said, and amateur opinions are just as valuable. You know, music speaks to everyone
That's
differently.
true.
But so yeah, I'm also relatively an amateur, but I'll say for Pizza Towers, just starting top down, I think Pizza Tower might be like if I had to break it down to its core value, it's like the most fun OST here. Very entertaining. Many of its songs sound like you need to go absolutely bonkers to them. I mean, it's just the usually songs with quick tempos still have portions or segments that slow down a lot to like almost tell you like, yeah, you take a breath here. But Pizza Tower doesn't do that nearly as often. It still does, and it still has slower songs, but most of it, the majority of it, is just hitting really hard, and it's super exciting in that way. I would describe it as maybe the most overall funky soundtrack present, and I mean that in the best way. As for Celeste, so what's interesting about these two tracks is they both come at it from that like that what is it called bit tune
Oh,
sound
8-bit,
style,
yeah, chiptune, yeah.
8-bit chiptune, 8-bit kind of sound style. But they both come at it extremely different ways. Whereas Pizza Tower is that super pumped up, like over exciting kind of take on it. Celeste dials it way back to be like haunting and beautiful. I would say my personal favorites from the soundtrack are the songs that focus more on the real instruments, or as opposed to that, like piano or even I think there's guitar. I think one of my favorite songs is what is it, Madeline and Theo? Um,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, gorgeous. And so many of the other songs, I can even like think of them by name, like, oh, that song is wonderful. I will say personally though, it comes down to what I value more when you're going at it with that sound style, that chiptune. I prefer the more exciting kind of take on it. When it gets like that haunting stuff, it doesn't hit my ears quite right when they go at it with that kind of that style. So I will personally be giving my vote to Pizza Tower for this one.
Let's go! Oh my god, Pizza
Pizza
Tower!
Tower 2
Yeehaw.
1.
Oh,
Let's go!
this one. And then,
Do you know what's happening?
no, that's the wrong one.
Right. Yeah.
I really liked all the soundtracks. This was like really hard for me.
Oh
Like
no.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in like
100%.
like in my
Everyone
You're gonna
did.
pick
bracket,
straight
I
Yeah.
bangers.
don't like in both of my brackets, I don't think I would have picked my own soundtracks. I would have
Pizza
picked like
Tower,
Kami and
Pizza Tower's
Undertale.
bangers, man.
Moving on to Ultra Kill versus Mario Galaxy. Starting, we'll take it
Woo!
from the bottom right. So, Brett, can you give us your first opinion?
Yeah, I'll give you my first opinion on this matter. What a matchup. So, I have played both of these games. One much more than the other. I'm going to start with one I have less familiarity with and am not that good at, but is very fun. Ultra Kill. So the soundtrack of this game is so appropriate for the gameplay, and it matches up so well. Like when you're listening to it, you kind of know that you're going to be like in like a pretty much an extended hallway fight, punching chainsaws with like blood getting everywhere. It's incredible. It's super hype, super thrilling. It's got a bunch of just gritty, weird electronic noises in there. I love all the like percussion, all the different like breakbeat style things that are going on in there. You can tell that whoever made the soundtrack like has a real appreciation for all that kind of electronic music, and it's great. I love it. But then you got the Titan. That's the problem here. then you got Super Mario Galaxy, everybody's childhood gameplay aside, which is crazy to say. Gameplay aside, Mario Galaxy. The soundtrack is just ethereal at a lot of points. It sounds like space in a beautiful way, like Rachel was saying in her description from last time. Instead of going to that place where like a lot of like horror, like more like I don't know, hard sci-fi stuff will go for music in space, or I'm thinking of like dissonant piano keys or something like that and a bunch of reverb. It goes to like a more like heartfelt place and has like a sense of wonder and exploration. And it also does just kind of sound like childlike wonder in some ways, even though we did all mostly play it as kids. It has that without the context of the gameplay as well. Yeah, Nintendo strikes again. Mario Galaxy gets my vote, of course.
Wonderful. All right, 1-0 for Mario Galaxy. That means up next, see what she's got to say. Kinsey, tell us your opinion on these two soundtracks and give us your vote.
Okay, so I've only played one of these games, and I've seen gameplay of the other one. The one that I have played, again, it's just nostalgia, is Mario Galaxy, and the one I haven't played is Ultra Kill. But listening to the soundtracks, I guess I should start from top down, just to keep it the same as last time. Ultra Kill, oh my god, I was not expecting to like really enjoy the soundtrack as much as I did. It is like horrifyingly grotesque, but like beautiful in like the exact same way. Like it's hard not to listen. Like you can almost like tell like when you're fighting, like it feels like a god. Background music or like what have you. Awesome. I thought it was gonna kind of blend together and everything was gonna sound the same. No. It like was like switching it up, and I was like, awful but beautiful. You know what I mean? Like when you find like beauty in like the worst possible things. Not that the songs were bad. I mean, like you could imagine the worst possible situations like with these songs. The beautiful part was the songs. It was like the accompanying situations that would like be horrific. That was like the kind of like emotions that were like brought forth. It was visceral. I loved it. With Mario Galaxy, that was basically like super like nostalgic for me. It wasn't the first Mario game I played. The first Mario game I played was Mario 64, but it's super nostalgic for me because my mom played and like 100%ed Mario Galaxy. I like could imagine like every single map that I was in. It was spacey. It was beautiful. I am a contrarian to heart, and I chose Ultra Kill because of how like novel it was, and like I've never heard something like that before. And so, like, I love Mario Galaxy. This isn't to say that Mario Galaxy isn't it, but I think there's a stubborn part of me that wanted to be like, I'm an indie gal or something, I don't know. But I do love Mario Galaxy, and this was really difficult, but
Fair enough.
yeah.
Yeehaw.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a surprise.
Yeehaw.
I don't think anyone was expecting the Titan to take a hit going up on it, but that makes it another tiebreaker. It's been fascinating to see how all these songs are beloved in a way that
Congratulations.
they need to go to this. They all need to go to this moment because they're all bangers. But so let me give my opinion. Like the others, I'll start top down. Ultra Kill. So Ultra Kill also really surprised me. I was personally expecting to not like it that much, just based on my usual interest in music. But then I got into it, and it had a lot more diversity than I thought it would. I mean, I had assumed from the little bit of the game I had seen by that point I started listening to the OSTs, there's just going to be nothing but metal and grit. And it's got that. It's got metal and grit, but there's more to it than that. And I was really impressed. I was blown away. But I will say, in a small note, but I do think it's fair. The music of this game, I know you just said like you hadn't heard anything quite like it, but I wonder if maybe that's just because you hadn't happened to hear some of these other things. Every time I listen to the Ultra Kill soundtrack, it immediately makes me think this is an action game with biblical theming where you kill angels and demons. And
Mhm.
the problem is there are other soundtracks that do that and also do it really well, and I couldn't disassociate those. And it almost is like there's been like a united decision that this is what that theme sounds like. But it's like
You can say Doom.
Devil May Cry, Bayonetta. It's just like there are other soundtracks that do something in a way that invokes the very similar vibe, and it is something I was thinking, and I was comparing them to those as I listened to it. More than I think I was doing that with any of the other soundtracks here. At least for me personally, I didn't feel as much of a wow, this is something I haven't heard before. Being transparent, and then Mario Galaxy. I'm just gonna be honest, it gets my vote, so I'm not gonna talk too much because I know I'll be talking about it again. It's gorgeous. I'll leave it at that. Just know it takes the vote. So 2-1 Mario Galaxy. It moves on to the next round.
Let's
Just,
go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Kinda.
yeah. I just wanted to say in response to I think it was Brett that had mentioned like the person that made the soundtrack was really. I just wanted to mention the person that made the Ultra Kill soundtrack is the same guy that developed the game because it's a one man
Oh yeah,
show.
Yeah,
fuck.
that's
Mm.
Yeah,
super
Forgot about
impressive.
Cheetah.
that.
Yeah, I
That's
remember that.
awesome.
That is amazing.
Incredibly
Very
talented.
talented.
That guy's yeah,
You know,
wonderful dude.
it could also be because like I really enjoy like my metal and rock sounds.
Sure.
Is my favorite soundtrack like ever. Right out of any video game, I would have voted for Mario Galaxy 2. It's just not. It's not even
Yeah.
a
Moving on to the next round, Undertale versus Pokemon Sun and Moon. So we'll use our top right to give us an order. Austin, please tell us your opinions and give us your vote on these two great soundtracks.
I'm gonna start with Pokemon Sun and Moon because I'm gonna be real. I don't typically listen to or play Pokemon games, so I wanted to say that I've never played a Pokemon game other than Pokemon Y. I think for the 3DS before this, and I didn't even get that far into it before I got kind of bored. This kind of game
Mm.
just doesn't really appeal to me, and because of that, I never got a chance to listen to the soundtracks. So Sun and Moon really really surprised me with how much of a groovy bop that this game can be. Like I found myself diving my head left and right, just like, oh yeah. I think I even have one song saved that I'm trying to learn how to play on the bass, and I really overall very fun soundtrack, very groovy, very fun. And I might be a little bit biased because I just played Undertale for the first time pretty recently. This soundtrack takes the cake for me. Not just against Sun and Moon. Again, this is a Mario Galaxy versus Ultra Kill situation. Sun and Moon's fantastic. Undertale is ridiculous. Undertale is unimaginably perfect in my eyes. Like every song, not only just in the game, because it works perfectly for the game setting and all the actions that are being performed for those songs. But listening to them outside of that point is also really fun. And there's still some songs that I've never heard gameplay wise that I listen to and I'm like, I fucking love this. I love this so much. Particularly the incredible bass work in Your Best Nightmare blew me away the first time I heard it. And it fits the game perfectly. It fits exactly what it's going for. Even if you've never played the game before, you would still recognize the story that is being told through the music, which story in music is huge for me. And that is the ultimate driving force that puts Undertale above Sun and Moon. Undertale just kind of blew me away in a way I wasn't anticipating. It made me emotional. It made me laugh. It made me really excited. And at certain other points, it made me really want to learn how to play it. So that's that. Yeah, this soundtrack, again, ridiculous. Made by one guy. Please go check it out if you haven't already.
That's
Yeah.
completely understandable. We love Toby Fox.
Put
100%.
Toby Fox on the screen.
Great opinions.
Toby Fox.
I will. I'll throw it up for you
Put up
guys.
when
I'll
he's
throw it up
hiding
for
behind
them.
the couch and holding the little annoying dog.
Yeah.
sign. Oh,
All right, and then following it up, Rachel, give us your opinions on Undertale versus Pokemon Sun and Moon.
I also have to agree with a lot of the points that Irving brought up. I feel like I feel like this is a Socratic seminar real quick.
it sounded like you're about to like. What my opponent said is not completely wrong. Very sorry.
Okay, anyways. I have to agree with a lot of the points that he brought up. I'll start off with Undertale. I have heard Megalovania like a lot of it was just everywhere. You hear it all the time. I never played the game, and so I think going into it, I kind of expected all of the music to just sound like that, and I didn't really have like high hopes, I guess. I was like, this isn't. And then I was just blown away with like, oh my god, this is amazing! Like, wow, this is such a beautiful soundtrack. Like, it's really well done. It was a surprise to me, and I truly loved it. It was, I don't know a better way to describe it other than like it felt cozy. I know some of the songs don't necessarily line up with that. It warmed my heart. I've never even played the game, which is a huge feat. Then moving on to Sun and Moon, I also found this to be a huge surprise. So I've only played 2 Pokemon games, Leaf Green and Emerald, and while the soundtracks in those games are great, I did not expect, again, I was expecting kind of like something in that range, and then just to be hit with the like freaking bangers that are in Sun and Moon, I was genuinely just blown away. I was like, I found myself like dancing along to the music, and I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. I get it. So, however, I do think Undertale kind of took it for me.
Oh man, we're actually at a 2-0 vote for the first time, so I don't get to tiebreaker,
Oh
but
my
you know
god.
what? I'll still
Yeah.
throw out my opinions. I still get to vote, just see how things go. And I want to talk about them because it's fun to do this. I'll also start top down. So, Undertale. This might actually be my most controversial opinion of the tournament. I love Undertale. I loved it when I played it, and it was a pretty transformative experience for me, and the music was a huge part of that. And I mean, of course, the music was a huge part of that. It's iconic. And there was a time for probably, maybe it was a whole month after I beat the game, that the OST and the remixes, so many remixes, that people were putting out onto like YouTube. I was listening to them left and right. It was almost all I was listening to. I think I had 5 different remixes of Asgore's theme on my main playlist at that time, because that was one of my personal favorite songs. I mean, just across the board, even though I listed that one, Undertale has so many bangers. I would say even some of the best individual songs of the entire roster we put up here, and that's incredible considering we have 8 phenomenal OSTs. As a whole, though, and this is probably where I get maybe a little controversial, I think Undertale's soundtrack is the most dependent on being connected to the game itself out of all the OSTs here. And that's impressive in its own way. The way the soundtrack ties in to character interest, character desires, what's happening in a scene, the themes, the feelings, it is mind-bogglingly amazing. But I'm not really judging it on that. I'm judging just if these soundtracks existed separately and I'm just listening, like hearing them because I want to hear them, what is my opinion on them? And once I start thinking that way, Undertale soundtrack kind of drops a little for me because you start to lose a little bit of what makes it so special because it went so hard on that connection. Which again, it's not even a knock against it. It's amazing. It's just not necessarily what I'm valuing right here in this moment. Like to bring up what I'm talking about, I know Irving literally just said how much he loved, Your Best Nightmare. But when we first talked about this song, before he had actually played Undertale, he even told me, he was like, hey, I remember hearing this song in the OST and thinking, that was okay. I mean, it was good. He liked it. But then he heard it in game, in the moment, and it clicked. And he said, this is literally phenomenal. This is amazing. And that's a big part of what I'm saying. It clicks when it all comes together in a way that most of these other OSTs do not do. And that's amazing. But when you take it as it is separately, it's good, but I'd be honest, I do not think it's great. And so moving on to Sun and Moon, in which I think is, in a way, a significantly less impressive soundtrack, but it is still full of bangers that are so fun and happy, as well as others that really can dial it back impressively. It is still a very impressive soundtrack in its own right. It's just because I know, I won't get to talk about it because Undertale already won. I'll say, out of the 2 soundtracks, with Undertale, where it's like I listened to it so much for like that month, I dropped it and I never listened to any of it ever again because once I got some time away from the game, it stopped meaning as much. Whereas Sun and Moon is still, it has like 9 or 10 songs on my study playlist to this day, and it's not even like a bias towards the game. Sun and Moon is one of my least favorite Pokemon games. I've played most of them,
So it's definitely not because I like the gameplay. It's just because those songs, they hit so well. It's the ones that are relaxing, they're so soothing. The ones that are exciting, like not Hop, the rival from that game. His is so, I think it's such a catchy little tune. But yeah, so my vote would have actually gone for Sun and Moon, making it 2-1. But Undertale takes the overall dub. Great, impressive soundtrack, overly deserving, and that solidifies our round one victors.
Yeehaw. Also, I can't believe you mentioned Hop in this video. That's ridiculous. Freaking Hop.
I mean, Toby Fox is like a genius, though, you know?
Oh no, I
Like
want to be very clear what I
he
was talking
deserves
about.
it.
Yeah, he's a very
Yeah.
amazing what he pulled off.
Also, I understand your best nightmare clicking for Irving after playing the game, but I also think it might be a matter of just hearing the song again. And also, I think he was kind of tripping the first time he heard it. Maybe what it boils down to.
I mean, that's fair. But what he said connected with the
Yeah,
opinion I had myself. So I was like, let me throw
for
out this
sure.
anecdote real quick. Moving on to round two, we have Amori versus Pizza Tower. We're just going to go ahead and start in the order of the left side. So, Kinsey, if you want to go first, I know you had plenty of time to talk about one because you presented it and one because you voted for it. But if you have anything further to say when you talk about each one and then you vote, go ahead and say it. If not, it could be quicker this time. We already talked plenty, so.
I feel like I might be, egotist because like I chose Amori. It really came down to like diversity for me. Like I felt like Amori kind of has like just slightly a bigger range, and so that's why I chose it.
1-0 Amori. All right, now let's go with Rachel. Let's hear your opinion on the two. Give us your vote.
Alright, so since I didn't get the chance to talk about Amori, I would just love to share that, yeah, this soundtrack was so freaking emotional. Like, it brought up so many, like, I get why it won. It deserved it because it just hits you in the gut, and I haven't even played this game. Like, that's how just raw this soundtrack is. That being said, I understand where Kinsey's coming from with diversity, but again, I don't know. Pizza Tower is just such a blast that I had to stick by it.
Fair enough. One vote Pizza Tower. We're 1-1. Moving on. Austin, let's hear your opinions and your votes.
Yeah, I casted my vote in a direction that I think might make me look a little. I think I promise I'm
Double
not.
ego vote.
Yeah, no. So, Amori is fantastic. Amori is a very, very, very emotional game. Again, the duet at the very end of the game is one of the biggest masterpieces I have ever heard out of a soundtrack, right? It is something that could potentially make any person cry anytime they listen to it if they have played the game before. It is perfect for exactly what the game's going for. But I listen to games to have fun, and Pizza Tower is the most fun I've ever had with a video game soundtrack. And on top of that, music theory wise, it is one of the most intense and rule breaking soundtracks I have ever heard in my life. Like Rachel had brought up with the Unexpectancy Part 2 sample that it utilizes, is one of the greatest aspects to not only just telling the story of what it's trying to go for, but incorporating two entirely different styles of music in the same song, conjoining them into this weird cacophony that creates one of the most dissonant, intense sounding boss fights I've ever heard in a video game. And for that, I give it to Pizza Tower.
2-1 Pizza Tower taking a potential lead here. All right, Brett, finish it off potentially with your opinion and your vote.
When it comes down to it, the point of music, I think, is to evoke emotion. So if it does that, any kind of emotion, it wins. And both of these do that really, really well. They're, of course, completely different emotions. You're having a blast with one, and the other one is, like, heartbreaking. Pizza Tower makes me laugh, but Omori makes me cry, and I think I kind of value that more. So I vote Omori.
Well. It's a 2-2 vote split once again. We are at a tiebreaker.
Tiebreaker time.
It just goes to show
Yeehaw.
superior
say yeehaw.
soundtracks, they keep clashing. All right, well, with the final vote, then I will say Pizza Tower is wonderfully fun. I truly felt that in everything I heard, but I'm also going to say part of it is just the length of the soundtrack. You know, there's less songs in the Pizza Tower soundtrack. And another part of it is it does keep to its theme a little bit more, whereas Amori's can go all over the place. And while I do think it hits the hardest and it's extremely emotional songs, like the ones that really break you down, you know, White Space, It Means Everything. Actually, I'm gonna stop on It Means Everything again, because that song, I go back and listen to that
Yeah.
one a lot. But they hit in the heart heavy, and so I've got to give my vote to Amori for that. It's just it's a titan of beauty and a titan of fun, and I think I'm gonna have to pick beauty on that one.
Also, there is a lot of quirked up fun in Amori, of course.
There is as well. There is as well. That is true. That's what I meant by the diversity aspect.
Yeah.
It goes all over. Yeah. All right. 3-2. Maury takes it and moves
Woo!
on to the final round. Wow. Now let's see who it will be going
Still
up
surviving.
against. It is time to put two other Titans, Mario Galaxy versus Undertale, in the ring and see who comes out and reigns supreme. We'll use the right side to determine our order this time. Austin, tell us your opinion and your vote on Mario Galaxy versus Undertale.
Yeah, I really love both of these soundtracks. They're some of the only video game soundtracks I have saved onto my streaming services so that I can listen to them at pretty much any time, right? And Undertale has some of the most fantastic, outlandish ideas for a soundtrack, truly bending what I believe to be the standard like RPG soundtrack. It really threw me for a loop, which the game also did as well, right? It's really good at expressing a story and expressing emotion. The only problem is it's going against Mario Galaxy, and Mario Galaxy, or You Are Mr. Gay, as some people would know it as, is one of the most wonderful pieces of media that has ever been created. It is unbelievable how it exposes you to the cold, unending feeling of space while making you feel like you're going on some kind of grand adventure. I love this soundtrack for how cold it is in certain moments. Again, there's a cut out me singing this because don't put me singing this in. But there's a fucking song with this piano that's it just put this section in the little. That shit sends shivers down my spine every time I listen to it. It's ridiculous. And it set a trend for Mario games going forward that just every game like this needed a soundtrack of similar quality. I'm so glad because it's the first soundtrack that I ever listened to that made me realize that video game soundtracks can be some of the most impacting emotional pieces of media in the world. Actually, small anecdote, when I was a kid, I used to have like a little like radio that I would play, stuff from, and I had the Mario soundtrack CD, and I think I fell asleep to it every single night. I think I fell asleep to like the Trash Planet or Bowser's theme or something that's like the third track in. Undertale is amazing for its own reason. But in my opinion, Mario Galaxy is just kind of the masterclass of video game soundtracks.
Yeah, and that's why it's so great. It was in our very first VGOST. But no, that's a wonderful. Thank you for your take. One vote, Mario Galaxy. Moving on to the next one. Rachel, give us your opinions and your vote.
All right. Um, uh, I again, I apologize for bringing a bazooka into a knife fight. I also voted for Galaxy again. Just everything that I said before still holds of just the like wonder of space and just how cool it would be to get to explore and how kind of crazy and how much creativity that they had with the variety in the soundtrack too, of like, you have Space Junk Galaxy where it's like this very quiet reflective piece, and then you have like Beach Bowl Galaxy, which is just have a fun day at the beach.
Thank you so much. All right, 2-0 Mario Galaxy. Brett, what's your opinion on Mario Galaxy versus Undertale? And let's hear your vote.
So when it comes to like the creation of music in general, it's not always important what tools you have to make something, because some of the best songs of all time are just like someone with a guitar and to maybe not even that great of a microphone. You could like kind of make great art from very little. And Toby Fox did that. He built this soundtrack with a box of scraps in a basement, and he made a generational soundtrack out of it. Like it's ridiculous what he did, and it's a testament to his work that I even considered voting for it against Mario Galaxy, but I didn't because Mario
Oh,
Galaxy was built. You have Mihiru Yokota and Koji Kondo, who's one of the greatest composers outside of even just video games. He's one of the best to ever do it, who were inspired by Miyamoto's vision. It's Mario. It's Mario. I mean, it's the soundtrack is Mario. It's fun. It makes you feel good. It makes you feel epic. It's heroic. You can't you can't beat it. Mario Galaxy, 100%.
well, okay. Thank you for that was beautiful. But all right, we're 3-0. So Kenzie, I want to hear your opinions and your vote. Whatever, the final result is, I still want to know. Let's hear it.
Well, we know that the majority, my bad, is already in favor of is in favor of Mario Galaxy.
But we
But
know you're a contrarian.
I am a contrarian, and I chose Undertale. But I feel like I do need to say both of these soundtracks were like nostalgic for me because I feel like I definitely played both while I was young. Mario Galaxy when I was younger, and then Undertale like when it first came out. I don't know. I love kind of like I don't know if it's totally like 8-bit, but just kind of like that older kind of like retro-y sound. Like I really like that Undertale brought that. I feel like I'm much more of a storyteller than like world builder. And so I think that's kind of like what I saw in Undertale versus like Mario Galaxy. It's like the story of Mario Galaxy isn't like it is built by like the songs and like the OST, but like Undertale like absolutely sweeps when it comes to like you know creating an OST that's built towards the story, but it also incorporates the environment. And I think that's like what I love so much about it. And it's so unique. Like when it first came out, like it was different. It was novel. It was fun. It was like, but it was also good. And so I think that's why I chose Undertale over Mario Galaxy.
Totally fair. 3-1, and while my vote can't really do anything either, we'll still talk real fast. So, Mario Galaxy versus Undertale is two titans, but in very different ways. So obviously, Mario Galaxy comes at it with an orchestra, whereas Undertale does not. It does not have that. It does not have the manpower and the financial backing to come at
It's
that
got
level.
it's got a pirated copy of FL Studio.
Exactly. But the fact that it still has such a huge fan base speaks to what they managed to pull off. But I would say when we're talking about like when you see like the crazy fan reaction, like if you went to see the Super Mario Bros. Movie when it came out, and if you waited a little bit into the credit scene, they started playing a bunch of Mario songs, right? If you were there in the audience when they got to Gusty Garden Galaxy during that credit scene, and you looked around and saw how many people in the audience, whether they're like young adults, a little older, or kids, would actually start like getting emotional just hearing the song that meant so much to them, whether was because it was connected to the game that meant so much to them, or just the song itself. It's sort of indicative of what this game is well, but also just the soundtrack can evoke from people. To be fair, Undertale does that as well. When Megalovania started playing during the Smash announcement of getting the Sans costume, a lot of people lost it. I remember seeing reactions of people going, "Oh my goodness, oh it's Megalovania!" And there's other songs that do that as well, of course. But I think for me, it is most notable and just crushes your soul into a happy little ball from Mario Galaxy's point of view. So that will get my vote. So 4-1, Mario
Yeah.
Galaxy also makes it into the championship, meaning we have one last decision, Amori versus Mario Galaxy. What's it gonna be? Find out right now.
Yeehaw.
I thought you were about to say next
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
um,
Back into it for the final round, the championship battle between Amori and Indie Darling and Mario Galaxy, which, well, what else can I say about it? So let's start in a random order. If you have any further opinions you'd like to say, speak now, forever hold your peace. Otherwise, we'll get your vote. So let's give this a random order. Brett, you'll go first.
Um, Super Mario Galaxy.
Rachel, let's hear you next.
contrary to popular belief as to what I vote for, I vote for Omori.
Too little, too late. No, I'm just kidding.
Kinsey, your turn. See what you got.
So, same like Rachel, I voted against myself and I chose Mario Galaxy. No comments really. It's just a banger.
I see the girly pops are helping each other out. I like it. All right, Austin, we're 2-1. What you got? What you got to say?
I want you to imagine this. You have a Wiimote in your hand, and you click on this game, and it says Super Mario Galaxy!
Dum 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 dum.
Exactly that. Yes, I think I can imagine it.
So, Maury, get through. Which one did you vote for?
Well, yeah, you didn't actually say which one you. You just said imagine this.
Guys, I'm voting for Pokemon Sun and Moon.
That's what I thought.
Super Mario Galaxy is gonna have to be my pick.
I'm not going to say the numbers because it kind of spoils what I'm about to say, but I will also be voting for Mario Galaxy. It's just a landmark piece of not only gaming, but gaming music. It's held so well because of that. Omori is a young, plucky up-and-comer in the market, and it's got a lot to say, but I believe there's a reason Mario Galaxy has held out for this long in so many people's hearts and minds. It's going to take my vote, which means in the final championship round, Mario Galaxy wins the first ever VGOST. Thank you all for watching. I hope you come back next time. See you then.
Yeah! Woo!
And now I have to host the next one.
Let's go! Let's go, Mario Galaxy!